Whoa. Why'd you make that noise and run off? Did you maybe see something in the woods that I didn't? Well, there's a new fear to think about while I'm here seemingly alone on this world. Hello everyone, and welcome back once again to Minecraft. Creepy, comfy, creative world. And in this episode, we are going to continue what we started last time. We built the eye of this city, that being the founder's former mansion, now the town hall. And we're going to build the, commercial area around it. So that means businesses, maybe apartments, as some of you suggested, and all kinds of other things. First important thing is going to be building the road. Are there still sheep stuck down here? There's not, which means we can probably finally fill this in. I swear, half this game is building, half this game is janitorial work, putting up the wet floor signs. We do have a new mod here, which I would like to showcase, if I can get it to work properly. So let's place that here, and figure out what the UI for this works like. So we're gonna place this right here. Give you netherite armor. We want you all in black. Can I place the wither skeleton skull there? Yes, I can, but it replaces the helmet. Maybe we'll do that anyway, I'm not sure. We can place the elytra on you, but that replaces that. That's really, really annoying. That's really annoying. Okay, but if we go like this, we can open the configuration window. Maybe we can place this here. That just puts it in your hand. But we can still gain some additional functionality here. We can get rid of the base plate if we wanted. We're gonna keep that. Can we get rid of... We can get rid of the frame itself. This is a really cool mod. This is the Armor Statues mod. And we can tweak each and every little thing. So we're gonna want you... This is based on something real... Look at that! We can even change it in, like, a free-floating space. This is a really, really cool mod. We can even save configurations. Look at that. We can even scale it and make you huge. Precisely what's needed. Alright, that seems about right. Perfect. And you don't need to be up on this large of a platform. We can shrink that down a little bit. That's perfect. We can even regain a little bit of land now. I'm not quite ready to give up on those wings yet, though. There we are. It's not the greatest look, but it is functional. And let's just get a little bit more on this side. Perfect. And we have our black angel watching over this place. And now all we need is the dedication. So how are we going to do this? Probably just a regular sign. Placed at the base. Elster. And I'm not just doing this because she's my girlfriend. She is also a patron. Kapakash is now down here. As always, I go with the requests first, because Questionable asked to be moved to a tree memorial. And I thought that was a pretty cool idea, so now you are at the one spruce tree in the entire graveyard. There we go, now you look a little bit more imposing. Here's a request that I found sort of interesting. This one specifically asked to be placed outside the fence. Someplace forgotten, someplace overgrown, and almost like they've been shunned. I wonder what your story is, 26ZQ? Clearly someone in town knows and made a conscious decision to put you here. So I think that's going to be our graveyard updated for now. We have a whole bunch of new memorials here, and all kinds of different variety as well. And I'm pretty happy with how this has all turned out. Again, if you want to be included in this and you're a patron, go ahead and just ask me over the patrons chat or by pinging me in the patrons lounge at the Discord. That's the best way for me to see it, because I might not see it if you just ask in the comments. But there's some of our new memorials. Up here, we're playing around more with the statues mod. Got this one over here. And something I thought was a really cool idea was the idea of having some lore behind the Black Angel statue as well. In this case, that she watches over those who sit beneath her. And the way I see it, it's not just these graves in front right here, again, all chosen at random, but I have noticed she also guards the entrance to the crypt itself. And so that brings the current count of users in the graveyard to just about 80, maybe a little bit less. But things are getting really, really packed in here, and it's, oddly enough, the graveyard is the most developed part of the town right now. Look at how we can see the lights from the town over there, even in the fog. Love that so much. Some of you had the idea of using buttons to denote hours on the clock. We can certainly do that. That looks pretty good, I think. There we go. Okay, that's looking more like a clock now, while not taking away from its eye-ishness. I invent all kinds of words in this game. This is going to be the hardest part, I think, is figuring out how this commercial district is going to look. Because, on the one hand, you want everything to be uniform, but you also don't want everything to be uniform. It has to fit together, but it shouldn't all look the same, or else what's the point? So let's start right here. I'm thinking something in the vein of maybe like a historic general store. And a historic general store is going to have to look nice and aged. Wow, listen to that echo in here. This brick is definitely made of other stuff. You'd think this facade would do something about that. Now we need to figure out what we're going to do as far as shelves. And it's probably just going to be like regular bookcases. Oh, these work perfectly. These actually are two-sided. Perfect for ye old general store. How would they lay that out? Probably like this, because the owner's going to want to be able to see who's walking around and doing what, right? So let's go like that. And like that. And like that. Perfect, measurements worked out. Not quite sure how we're going to handle the lighting situation, though. Actually, wait, yes I am. I forgot, we have lots and lots of cool lighting options. Ooh, Dunmer floor light. What does that look like? We'll get a couple of these as well. Lighting is half the fun in these things now. That could be cool. It is historic, but I don't think it's without electricity. So let's go ahead and place a couple of these on the front. Now doesn't that just look historic? There we go. And there is the oldest commercial building in town. Right here beside Town Hall. I'm gonna get the idea that maybe this used to be the main street. I mean, it makes sense. It's right beside the river. You can just use these to light the place. No need to do anything super fancy with it. And I think, yeah, that's really all we need. You can just kind of stick a couple of things in there so that there's some life in the corner. And that's good enough for me. I really like these little pathing things. That's one of the more underrated mods in this pack, I think. I've been unsure about what to do with this little corner slot here, and I'm thinking, why don't we turn this into a little park? Someplace where, you know, little old ladies can come and go to the water's edge and feed the birds. Makes sense to have something like that right here, especially in the more nostalgic part of town. Now let's just allow this to grow out a little bit, give it some natural beauty. Oops. There we are. And now we've got a pretty nice little park right under the eye, right beside the general store. And some benches for the old ladies to sit on. a couple more just kind of scattered around the water's edge. The path ends because we don't want to, pollute the natural beauty. But I think this is looking cool. Look at that. That is so cool. I just love the things the light rays do with this town. Like, 80% of the appeal of this map isn't even the building, it's just what these graphics mods are doing. But yeah, from here, you practically can't tell at all. I guess that bell is still working to an extent. Well, anyway, we're working on our next addition, which is going to be the... what was it? Oh, a restaurant, yeah. Historic restaurant, what used to be the town saloon. And I figured it only makes sense that it would be right next to the general store. Is this whole thing just an excuse for me to use the old-timey saloon doors? Yes, 100%. Do you begrudge me that? I bet you don't. Yeah, we just gotta figure out how to populate this thing. Here in the upper level, of course, no saloon can be complete without a second-floor balcony that looks down onto the main bar area. After all, where else are people supposed to fall from after getting in a bar fight? How else are people supposed to start a bar fight by dropping a glass, leading them to accuse each other in a wild, drunken rampage? Yes, this is how things were done back then. A simpler time. Looks nice. Or at least it could be. But come on, this place is 19th century nightlife. And it's not going to be nightlife until it's got some light life. Thank you for subscribing. Anyway, let's put that out there. And some space for these out here. Oh, what the heck. I was using these as shutters, but it doesn't really matter too much. Now we've got that going for us. And let's start to try and do something similar with the interior. Now, time may have marched on, but I like to think that the whole appeal of this place is in the nostalgia factor. So let's see if we can keep this thing faithful. Just in time for morning. Light. And this place is starting to feel a little bit livelier already. Unfortunately, we don't have a piano or anything of the like. Maybe we can find some more dressing mods later. I do have one mod installed that is allegedly for this version, but ended up uninstalling it because it was causing issues where the texture packs wouldn't load. Otherwise, we'd have a lot more in the way of detailing props. But this is starting to look a little bit more like someplace people would actually want to hang out. With all that done, the only thing we had to do was fill out the kitchen, which, actually we found some more new modded props. We got ovens, and they basically take the form of smokers, but that's how they work. And the office here, where the owner has his little lockbox, which no doubt gets stolen like 5 or 6 times a week, at least back in the days. But now, I think all we need is to hang a sign outside, marking this historic place as, how's about, wait, will that actually hang in the right spot? It will, even. Lenny's Saloon, Restaurant, and Grill. Times may have changed, but the good times still roll. Actually, if we wanted, we could also put some windows in the back. One thing I'm kind of worried about is that this might disrupt the view from the bridge. So can we... oh, we can't fly out of here like this. That's a design flaw. Let's see how it looks from over here. You always have to do the view test. That looks perfect, actually. That doesn't disrupt a thing. Wow, you can really hear that from all the way over here. Let's just put a couple of things over here. This is the issue, is I'm trying to think of things that can be here and still fit, and I'm very quickly getting into a style that, oh my god, this railing is so annoying. I'm very quickly getting into a style that makes it hard to varietize. I'm kind of pre-planning this so that the road sort of moves out and away. And I was thinking about something you guys said where you could even have like higher density residential apartments like along the river here, and I think that's kind of a cool idea. Where exactly that's going to go, I'm not sure. I want to preserve the nature, at least along this bank here. You know, keep the sort of vibe that it's already got going on. But now that we're moving further away from Town Hall, I'm also thinking we can start doing things that are a bit more in the family of, like, modern. So I think the first thing we're going to build... I had this idea, I want to do it, I figure it's creepy and comfy, it's got to be done. All this landscaping work is making me realize that I really need to take some time to just learn how to use World Edit, because this is the worst part, is trying to flatten things out, but also flatten things out in a pretty way. We want to make sure we don't lose any of that natural terrain that makes this place so great in the first place. I am really worried about overdeveloping it, but I'm thinking that now that we're all the way over here, that we've got some distance, we have a little bit more freedom because we're not stuck just keeping to that same old-timey style. You have to keep the old town, but that doesn't mean things haven't modernized around here. It is still the current year. Or something, I don't know. I imagine in a place like this, time is kind of vague and inconsistent, and that's just how the locals like it. And that's not even accounting for any temporal anomalies that may arise. Chaotic white concrete bricks. That looks sort of like what I'm looking for. We may even be able to use some of our new industrial blocks with this. Now, a white building, that might seem kind of out of place, but I think you're gonna really appreciate what I'm doing here. And also, it's about to get a lot more out of place, so strap in. So right now, it just looks like a big white brick, kind of an eyesore. And like I said, it's gonna become even more of an eyesore, but I still think it's cool. Don't worry, a lot of this is going to be broken up with windows. I'm just trying to see into my mind's eye and remember the textures of this thing. And I do remember rough white walls. But let's start breaking this thing open. Putting in those interior walls now. I think we're going to have to go with either some kind of terracotta or concrete. And it would actually probably be more useful to type in yellow. Yellow concrete is actually the perfect shade. Do you see what I'm doing? Some of you might. You know, I've long wondered what the best policy is when it comes to putting on roofs like this. Because it's something I've done a trillion times before, and I've done it a million different ways. Sometimes I do it snake style like this, where it just closes in on itself. Sometimes I'll go in strips like this. And I'm sure there's like a technically more efficient route, but it's really more psychological. It's about keeping yourself entertained while you're doing it. I mean, I always find snake style to be better simply because you can feel it getting shorter with each iteration. I debated doing the whole thing in this wool style, but I remember the floors were always quite a bit more plain. And by this point, you can probably kind of start to see what I'm going for. See, what I was thinking was, what is something you need in a creepy and comfy town? Well, what else are you supposed to do on a rainy Friday night besides rent a video? Let's just encase this a bit. Grab some glass. This is the real exit. That thing scares the crap out of me every single time, and I love it. I'm so glad I put it there. So we've got the greater structure here, but the thing about Blockbuster is that it glows in the dark. When you show up at night looking for something to watch because you're bored and have nothing to do, this was a beacon shining in the night. So we gotta make sure that this thing shines equally as well. And we're gonna accomplish that by using these things underneath the canopy. Alright, let's see if this is behaving as I want. That looks pretty good. Will these go on the ground? They will? And come on, doesn't that just look like the perfect solution to boredom? Literally sitting there saying, come look at me, I've got entertainment inside. That's also the same argument people use to get you into vans, but Blockbuster was cool like that. So this is now lit up, we just have to stock it with merchandise. I would like to have it be a little less cramped than this, but I think by having shorter shelves, it doesn't really feel that bad. There were a couple of places where there would be gaps, but I'm just kind of going off of memory here. Like, for example, over here, we have these more front-facing rows, and because this right here on the left would always be where the video game rentals were, I think the very first game that I ever took out from Blockbuster was, and they may have been both at the same time, it was either Tomb Raider for the PS1, or it was even, oh god, this is old, Rainbow Six for the Game Boy Color. Just because I was curious how that would work on the Game Boy Color. And then I think the last thing I ever took out was Fable 3. Yeah, those can be registers. Sure, fine, why not? And there would always be... red fences are just the same as velvet ropes, right? They would always rope it off like this, so that you had to go by the registers in order to get out. Well, this has been mighty therapeutic for me. The only thing it's missing is the sign, and I'm not sure the town would be too happy about having this giant glowing sign just kind of standing up over the trees like that. I imagine it would have been a huge fight between corporate and town hall. Until town hall kind of came and slapped it down. Literally, I mean, town hall being right over there, they all just walked over here one day while they were building the sign and started slapping the crap out of the 16-year-old employee. Lost like 4 teeth, lives with his brother now. I got off on a tangent. Point is, this town is wild. Yeah, I mean, I thought about having a big sign, and the more I look at this, the more I think it's just kind of too big and obstructive for what we're going for here. So, that's all gonna go. Now, isn't this just the way when it comes to rainy afternoon boredom? You come here, you have no idea what it is you want. All you know is that you need to keep yourself entertained while everyone's inside. Kick your feet up and be comfy cozy. If you want a horror movie, a comedy, well, I guess that depends on the company, or lack of company. Then it's all up to your own taste. I just loved what an adventure coming here always was, because you never knew what you were going to get. You didn't, type a name into a streaming service thinking, okay, I have 1,000,001 things I need to get through, and this is what I'm going to watch tonight. I feel like you just can't beat the experience of physically being here in person with a bunch of other tired, drowsy people who also don't know what they're looking for, and seeing the classics, yeah, but those would be the 2-day rentals, and they wouldn't be guaranteed to have them. No, if you were looking for something to keep longer term or more guaranteed, you'd have to go in the back and look at the weird stuff. The indie horror movies that nobody's ever heard of, you certainly haven't. And you'd have no idea if it was going to be good or not, but who cares if it was good or not? You'd rent 2 or 3 and just hopefully something was at least funny. And I know on paper streaming is better in every way. It's so much more convenient. You don't have to go somewhere. But that's one of those things where you gain something, lose something, because going somewhere was part of the experience. Going somewhere was... And like physically having the things in your hands was part of it. And look, even some streaming services are great for the feeling of discovery. I find random nonsense on Tubi all the time, and that's free. But, I don't know, it's just we lost something. We really, really lost something. I'm glad that physical media seems to be making a comeback, especially with all these, like, crazy DRM rules that are being introduced over time. But now we've got what we wanted, and it's time to go. I haven't found a good prop for it, but in here would always be a gumball machine with a bunch of gross gumballs that are sticking to the sides. One thing we do have to check is how does this look from the bridge? That always seems to be the sniff test to see if something belongs here. Is there a villager? What? Where are you? Oh, it's a trader. Okay, I was concerned. I was starting to think the legends about the man under the bridge are true. Well, I suppose this is where legends come from. But anyway, if we head in here... You know what? It's out of place in a good way, I think. It's just barely peeking up over the trees. It's not as intrusive as the sign would have been. But you can tell that it's a different kind of light, a different kind of color. But while if we look over towards the residential area, it's got that cozy vibe, the street lamps and the warm colors. Over there, it's cooler colors slightly, and I think it tells you you've entered civilization in a different way. I really, really like this. Look at that, I just realized even from all the way over here in the rain, we can see the smoke rising from the chimney of the abandoned house. Maybe we should work on fleshing out the residential a little bit more. Remember, like I said, I like to bounce around between projects so I don't get bored. And I was just reminded of this. Why do you guys leave the doors open in the rain? It's so annoying. You guys were raised in barns. Maybe I should just build you barns. You'll be happier that way. That, literally, the eye just scared the crap out of me. Some of you guys were talking about wanting more texture to the roads. And I tried it with cobblestone. I didn't really like it that much, but I think these path blocks can potentially give us a solution. Like, we just, like, put these in the road every once in a while. That could potentially be something. I mean, it would be a whole project to put it in everywhere. But it could be something. I don't know how good this will actually look. I'm just kind of putting it everywhere. It, oddly enough, like, it looks too uniform. Oh, hey, it's Kitty. Alright, if I pick you up, will you follow me inside? Please come indoors. Thank you, Kitty. That's all I've ever wanted. Yep, straight to your owner's bed. That's perfectly fine. It's your bed now. Oh, there's gonna be hair everywhere. I think something may have gotten a little screwed up here. There we go, that fixes that. I don't know what happened to it. Maybe I should be concerned about broken stuff elsewhere. I haven't seen much, but I also haven't been in too many old interiors. Yeah, wow, all these... Oh my god, no. Why are all these things broken? Was it because the mod updated? Yeah, they gotta be broken separately. Oh my god, the library. That's gonna be a project and a half now, isn't it? Hopefully it's just those types of bookcases. Use our shortcut. Long time no see. It's good to revisit the old stuff sometimes. They're just all gone. And these are broken. I'll deal with it later. Yeah. This has been a long time coming, I think. It's probably been like this for a while. So I really want to get some more villagers into this area, and in order to do that, we need some residential. Problem is, I'm not ready to build apartments this close. But I think I have a cool idea for a compromise that still includes old architecture and can go on this street. How about we build ourselves a historic hotel? I just saw this hill and was immediately thinking this is crying out for a creepy old hotel tower. And the thing I'm thinking of for, like, an inspiration is actually kind of a weird and specific one. I'm just thinking of this building from a really stupid movie called Amusement. How are we gonna do this? Ooh, I have an idea. I've an idea. Gotta have one of these, right? There were some dedicated fences that we could put here that had stone already on the side of them. I didn't really particularly care for how it looked. And it seems like this sort of connects on its own anyway, so that's alright. You can go like that, and like that. Now this is not going to be a super big hotel. It's not a huge operation. This is going to be something that I like to imagine was formerly somebody's house, you know? Some sadistic old recluse who at some point decided for some reason, suspiciously, to go into hospitality. The question of what material to make this out of is a tough one, and brick sort of seems like the obvious choice. It sort of fits in more with what would have been the mansion across the street. I just don't know, man. Especially which type of brick to use, since we now have so many. I feel like smaller is scarier. I don't know, what arrangement of bricks in the formation is the scariest? I really want to ask an engineer that and see what kind of look I get. You know what? The more I'm looking at it, the more I'm thinking I'm gonna have to go with the mud bricks. That's actually the closest thing to what I'm envisioning. So let's go with these. Because I want that darker color. The running bond could be better than what's in this building here. Yeah, potentially. I wish those edges were a little bit deeper and darker. But I can see this. Because remember, this place is supposed to be aged. It's going to limit us on space even further, but I do want to have interior walls for this. Don't want the whole inside to look like this. So I think now would probably be the time to start planning out the overall structure. Oh my god, you always think you have so much space and then there's just none. We can make it a little bit better because there's room to widen it by a block on each side. We don't want it just outright touching the fence. But I have a feeling those 2 blocks of width are going to make all the difference in here. I guess what I'm going for here would really be considered more of a bed and breakfast style thing than a true hotel. But that's the whole point of this, is that it was converted from residential. Trying to figure out the best way to make this work. And I think it's probably going to involve going up and away from the foyer, however you want to say it. But I'm cooking with this. I really like the idea of having this little hallway right here. I think I talked about this in the real estate video. I am a sucker for this type of entryway. There we go. Have I gotten that old where I have opinions about architecture? Meanwhile, there's the Blockbuster right there, like, hey, gonna be bored in your room tonight. You know what's odd about this? I'm kind of creeping myself out working on this one. There's just something odd about it. Standing here by lantern light, putting it all together. Knowing what the history of the place is supposed to have been, even though I'm the one sitting here making it up. I don't know. One thing I do not like when things are cramped like this is how you really, really have to make some dumb choices when it comes to the railings. Oh, this is so bad. There's got to be a better way to do this. Tell you what, maybe there is. Hang on. If we do dark oak slabs, maybe we can come up with something. Oh, no, I'm dumb. I'm dumb. Why aren't I just using this? The answer is because it doesn't quite look the way I want, but this is still so much better than what I was doing. Goodbye, thank you. Macaws saves me once again. These mods are amazing. Wow, that really does not work with what we placed here. You know what? In the long run, it saves us a lot of space. A lot of space. There we go. I know I'm jumping the gun, like, big time. But obviously we need to fill this space with, like, all kinds of creepy portraits placed at irregular distances along the wall, right? It's weird because on the one hand, it can be extremely annoying trying to work all of this into such a limited space, but I feel like when it works, it really works, and it is sort of fun getting to be creative in how these things actually fit together. The mods definitely help a ton with this, but it's like I have a plan for how I want this to go, and then I'm constantly having to compromise with myself, which on one hand is a bad thing, but it also, by freehanding it a bit more, I feel like I get results that even I didn't expect, and it makes it a bit more interesting for me to explore, which is a real weird space to be in. Carving out the windows always a bit of a pain, but see, here's where we get one of these opportunities. We have this space under the stairs we can see in and out. This leads onto one of the rooms. So maybe we can do something with that. Looks like an old construction photo, just make this sepia toned. There we go. And now you get a window. Rooftops are always hardest. Working out how all this thing concludes is going to be a pain and a half. On this third floor, we're going to have pretty much absolute freedom to work this out however we want, but the penthouse, the owner's quarters, that's where things are going to be difficult. Do you think these guys had a rivalry? I mean, look, we've got the town founder and this old rich recluse, and they can both see into each other's bedroom windows. Or maybe they wrote love letters to each other, wrote them on poster board and held it up. Sky's the limit. See, here is one of those cases where slabs can come in handy. There you go. We just patch that right up. And then we can see about getting all of this in order. How does that look? Could look better, could look worse. Look at that. Kind of reminds me of this Scarecrow toy I used to have as a kid, like Scarecrow from Batman. And he had a hole in the back of his head, and he had these two plastic red eyes. And if you held them up to a light, it would look like they were glowing. Random memory to unlock. But I've got to talk about something during all of this. Obviously, these things take so much time to record compared to what actually gets put on the screen. But whatever, it's among the more relaxing things to record. So may as well indulge that once in a while. There we are. So that's that. The building itself is more or less done. Let's just go ahead and grab some windows from somewhere. Now we've got to start seeing about actually filling it out and decorating it, but man, that looks so spooky on its own, doesn't it? This came out pretty much exactly as I was hoping for. I really can't think of any more appropriate way to do this than with candles. So we'll place these things pretty much wherever they're best suited. I want a bias to have them towards the windows just so that this building does glow a little bit at night. Although it does make me wonder if maybe I shouldn't be trying to make it a little darker than is maybe necessary. So many choices to be made all over. I think just one or two of these things per room is fine. Now we'll come upstairs. Oh, right, we never actually filled this place out at all. For some reason, I had believed this place to be much taller than it actually seems to be. There we go. Alright, the Necrolord doors could work here. It's all nice and fancy. I think that fits in with the blocks we have. Yeah, I'm quite happy with the way this is progressing. And just look at this. You walk in, you've got this grand hall. This is precisely the kind of thing I was hoping for. I'm thinking we'll probably put a wall or something here, something to split these off. but this will be like sitting areas and dining rooms. Even the view, look, you come down this narrow hallway, and then you come out here, and it just opens up. That's something you have to think about in interior design, something which I rarely think about, but I'm now an expert in because I say so. You come down the stairs in the morning, and the sun is positioned right there. I didn't plan that, but come on, what else says wake up for breakfast? Meanwhile, when you're coming through here, you can see the reflections off the trees just barely peeking through. This is so nice. So here we are now, pretty much done. As always, there is still plenty of decoration we could stand to do, but the rooms are at least furnished. And so we can call this ready to move on for now. And I'm pretty happy with how things came out. So you enter the hotel, and we've got quite a grand entrance here. And if you walk in and go to your left, you'll be in the first of 2 sitting rooms, all decorated in red, just like the owner likes it. And here's the dining hall where everyone can share a meal. Of course, if you like something a bit more private, there's a little bit more of a smaller, more intimate room back here. That one's more for conversation rather than being alone together. And if we go up the stairs, this first or second floor, depending on if you're good, has 3 different rooms. 1, 2, and 3. This is the kind of thing I'd like to do more of. Have more like wardrobes and smaller pieces of furniture. But I don't feel like doing all that for each room right now. Come up another floor. And we've got 2. This one's a double bed. And this is one that probably should be a double bed, but it's basically the lap of luxury. This is, as a guest, the best you can do here. In fact, not only is it luxurious as far as space and beds, it's also the only toilet in town. And then we come up here to the owner's quarters. A bare, lonely room sitting right here on the perch with a perfect view to look out over the town. They may have a murderous misanthrope for a host, but you can't say it's not creepy and comfy. Look at that, we're developing a little bit of a skyline. A whole thing that just didn't exist previously. The only thing I'm thinking now is that we need to poke some holes in the back of this building here. I'm sort of thinking on splitting it up like this. I'm mixed on it. On the one hand, I sort of like a flat bare wall on an old structure like this. But also, this looks nice too. It's like I said before, the worst thing isn't when you're trying to figure out what would look good. The worst thing is when you have 2 or more choices in front of you, and you kind of like them both. But having a little bit of texture is never a bad thing. The sun is rising over this place, and the many bodies that are no doubt buried beneath it. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Yeah, I like it that way. I do. And when it comes to these occasional series, anytime there's stuff going on in real life, it just makes it impossible to focus on anything other than the main stuff. But I want those of you who are watching this to get these updates more frequently. So we'll see what happens with regards to that. One thing I will say, though, is that it's always really satisfying to come back and look at what's been accomplished in an episode, because we've only put up 4 buildings and some stuff in the graveyard in this, and I've been recording for like hours and hours, so it can really easily feel like nothing got done until you see all the world you're setting. I mean, there's a whole commercial district that simply wasn't here before, and now it is, and it gives us something to work off of. Here's what I've been thinking, because we haven't done legends on here in a while. Nothing that I've, like, deliberately fleshed out anyway. So we pretty much have already decided on the murder hotel thing, right? Like, the rich old recluse opens this place up as a bed and breakfast to the public and starts disappearing and murdering victims in the night. Well, what if the town has sort of embraced that history? If we have you holding not a skull, but a skeleton cushion, which is actually part of the furniture pack, perhaps we can do something with regards to your pose. Look at that. We can even turn you like that. That is so cool. All right, so here's what I'm thinking for the story for this. And this is just a little bit of fun being had in the modern day. So we have this murderous owner of the bed and breakfast, right? But maybe after who knows how long of doing this, some of the guests got wise. They all conspired with each other, and one night, in order to save their own lives, they all marched up there and took matters into their own hands, found the sleeping owner, and cut his head off in the night. And it's mob justice. Who knows if it's actually true or not? But as a nod to the local legend, I like to imagine the current owners do this thing where they prop up the headless ghost statue holding his own head. But the reason he haunts this place is because he's never been able to find it. The guests took it and hid it somewhere on the property, and maybe the ghost can be laid to rest if it's ever found. And meanwhile, whoever's at the front desk likes to snicker to themselves when they see guests creeping around in the night looking for it. You really can get a lot from nothing out of this game, can't you? You make your own entertainment. And if you like this video, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe for more creepy and comfy content. If you have any ideas for other videos you think I should do, the best place to suggest that will be at the Discord, which I will link in the description. If you want to try this mod out for yourself, I don't know, maybe that link works, maybe there's a way to do it. If you want to support me on Patreon, that link will be in the description. And as always, I will see you in the next one.